British colonialists used the divide and rule policy in India to consolidate power in what was back then their colony. It worked wonders for them. Hindus and Muslims were turned against each other. The colonialists appeased one community while harassing the other, and they kept switching positions of who they appease and who they harass. But the divide and rule policy can work only when a limited number of parties, ideally only two, are involved. With tens of stakeholders, such a strategy is seen to fail magnificently, and that is what has happened in the South China Sea. China thought it could divide and rule Southeast Asia. It was wrong. China has ended up bringing Southeast Asian countries together like never before. Let me explain how. Hi and welcome. You are watching TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Sanbir, and in this video I will talk about the blunder that has shattered Jinping's South China Sea ambitions. Let's begin. China has been digging its own grave in the South China Sea for quite some time now. You see, no country likes to be bullied, no country likes to be looked down upon, and no country will take aggressive Chinese military advances lying down. The consensus within ASEAN is now clear. China needs to be taught a lesson. If one pays close attention to the developments in Southeast Asia, it will not be difficult to realize that nearly all ASEAN countries, barring Laos, Myanmar, Thailand and Cambodia, are standing up to China and challenging its claims and maneuvers in the region. China has taken a series of self-destructive steps in the South China Sea. The most fatal and blunderbuss among them have been Beijing's heightened Coast Guard patrols and military exercises in disputed waters from 2020, its harassment and mistreatment of vessels belonging to ASEAN countries in the South China Sea, and of course, its decision to allow the Chinese Coast Guard to enforce Beijing's unsubstantiated maritime claims in the region by force if necessary. Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Brunei, among others, are all beginning to pose a severe challenge to China's aggressive practices in the South China Sea. For a very long time, these countries maintained an uncomfortable silence over China's increasing belligerence against them. But they have now decided enough is enough, which is why they are forming an unofficial anti-China group out of the purview of ASEAN to take on Beijing. The Philippines, to begin with, has decided that appeasing China is not an option and will prove to be a suicidal strategy if followed. So, it has worn the cap of a China hawk and is making life miserable for Beijing. The Philippines has stepped up patrols in the South China Sea and intends to deploy Coast Guard vessels to Thitu Island in the Spratlys. It has also embraced the United States once again and has decided to develop a bilateral maritime framework and resume construction projects under the 2014 Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, which allows the US to access and upgrade select Philippine military bases. Malaysia has been victimized by China as well. In June 2021, Chinese Coast Guard vessels began patrolling around Malaysian drilling operations in the Kasawari gas field of Sarawak, targeting offshore supply vessels. Simultaneously, Chinese military planes patrolled near Malaysian airspace. And then, in September, China conducted a seabed survey on Malaysia's continental shelf. All of these aggressive acts have infuriated Malaysia. Foreign Minister Saifuddin Abdullah admitted that Malaysia expects China's harassment to continue as long as the operations at Kasawari go on, but committed to persevere in face of adversity. Indonesia, the largest country in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, is looking to punish China and is leading the charge against the communist nation. You see, China went as far as asking Indonesia to not drill in its continental shelf in the North Natuna Sea because the CCP says that it owns this territory. China was actually trying to restrain Indonesia from drilling its own oil and natural gas. But a gutsy Indonesia went ahead with a 6-month drilling project anyway, and at the end of it termed the same as a victory. Indonesia's Maritime Security Agency has invited Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Vietnam to convene this year as a part of the ASEAN Coast Guard Forum, which met virtually in October last year. Vice Admiral An Kurnia, Chief of Indonesian Maritime Security Agency, said, "We will share experiences on how to respond in the field when we face the same disturbance," which was a veiled reference to China. According to the East Asia Forum, such a minilateral effort outside of the ASEAN umbrella has not occurred since 2015, when the foreign ministers of Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam held 2 meetings on the South China Sea dispute. For the uninitiated, China has been calling the shots in ASEAN for the past few months, since the association's presidentship currently lies with Cambodia. Cambodia, being a de facto lackey of China, is taking ASEAN towards a major split. Beijing is trying to play into ASEAN's fault lines and is actively looking to pull countries like Myanmar, Thailand, and Laos to its side. Such moves by China have not gone down well with the actual Southeast Asian powers, who are now stepping up their activism against the communist nation. Interestingly, China would today not have made enemies out of the likes of Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, and others had it not so aggressively pushed its own geopolitical agenda in the South China Sea. But it did, and now hatred for Beijing has united Southeast Asian countries like never before.